Tracing Video 101. This is Christine Reyes with foxgypsy.com. In the SCA, I'm known as Hosokawa Sora. I'm using a light box. Now, if you don't have a light box, that's okay. Any window or sliding glass door, as long as you have a good source of light on there, you can tape your work to there and work from there. Make sure your room is dark, so pull curtains if you have other windows in the room, and try to make it as dark as you can so that the window you're using is the only source of light. You'll probably have to take breaks since you're going to be standing and working upright rather than working over an object. The light box that I have is actually a homemade one that I picked up at a Goodwill for 20 bucks. That's got a piece of plastic over a top of a wooden box frame with a light that has been placed inside of it. So the first thing I do is I tape my design down, and this design is available to you free on my website, foxgypsy.com. And it's in a Word file, so you can change it to any size you want to. I have two different sizes on the image. I'm going to be using the smaller one that's about 2 inches, and I'm using Pergmata paper, which is commonly used in the SCA. I'm going to tape it down as well. I'm using blue painter's tape. It's a very low tack tape, so it won't mess with my paper so much. Regular masking tape will work too because it's also a low tack. I just like painter's tape. I usually have a lot of it around anyway because of my painting. I'm going to be using a mechanical pencil. I like how sharp they are and I never have to sharpen it. Also, being left-handed, I find that they tend to smear less. Also, even if you aren't left-handed, I recommend taking a piece of paper and folding it into quarters to give something to put underneath your hand so that when you're working on a surface, you have a piece of paper between you and the surface so you do not get the oils from your hands on the surface. When you do that, it can make it so that the paints don't go into the surface as easily. So it's just a really good habit to get into to keep the surface clean. Now, because I am left-handed, I'm going to start at the upper right area. If you are right-handed, you'll want to start at the bottom right or upper right, whichever feels more comfortable working your way across. Now, the thing about pencils is I always go lightly first because you can always go darker afterwards, and I plan to trade it out to a pen later, so I don't really need my pencil to be very dark. This object has a lot of detail to begin with, so I'm actually going to kind of cut out some of the detail as I'm working on it. I can always add it back in later, and if I'm going to be painting it in any way, the details will be added with the paint. So I'm just getting a basic outline. So working very lightly, and you don't have to, put all little zigzags in, but you can change it as you go too. And the other thing about tracing that's really cool too is I can move my object. Say I want my tail to be in a different position. I could pick up the object and move it so that the tail's in a different position. I can kind of play around with it based off the body and move it about. When you're tracing something, you just really want to get the basic shapes, the basic outline of an object. Don't fret about the details as much. And like I said, because I'm working in pencil, I can always change it. I can go back, add details, or fix a line that doesn't look quite right. Tracing is a really useful tool for design, and it's also a really useful tool for learning. If you want to learn how to draw something, I started when I was like 8 years old tracing designs out of it was a figure drawing book for designing fashions. And I used to trace the outline of the model and then draw fashions on it myself. But after drawing the model so many times, I got a good sense of what were the proportions of the limbs and what was the proportions of the face, where the eyes and ears and things line up. So doing that sort of practice can make you a better artist or drawer, whatever you want to call it. It's also a useful tool for creating something different. So, like, for example, different animals. I like to create creatures and things like that. So getting to learn different textures like fur and scales and feathers and things like that. If you are tracing and practicing those objects, you kind of get an idea of how those different things work, but you can also combine objects. So if you trace the body of a lion and you put it together with a bird, you get a griffin. So you can combine different things to kind of create new things that way. And tracing is one of those ways in which you can put those tools together. Of course, with modern technology, you can use even Word to take several different images, overlap them, change their sizes, cut away parts, and put them together in a different way, and then trace that object, because it's kind of ugly when you put it together. It's just kind of a mishmash of things, like a collage. But then when you trace it, you can kind of take the elements that you like and put them together at the sizes that you want them to be. So you might have 3 or 4 different images that you couldn't quite put together, but you had them to the right size to work with each other. And then you can move your little piece of paper around to kind of just grab the elements that you want from that object. So if you're not sure whether or not you've managed to trace an area to see whether or not your pencil's there, you can always turn a light on to look and see. Oh, I had my light on the whole time so you could see easier, but the pencil is hard to see sometimes. Let me turn my main light on. And turn off the light box. And voila, I have a tracing. I will go over how to pin something in the next video. Hope this was helpful.